Without Jim here, it might not work.
It does work. It was Jim. I knew it the entire time. It was Jim.
Well, if you want to keep lights, heat, roof on, and possibly support a coming back, we're glad you survived thing for Jim, ko-fi.com/the blanket fort. And we do have a small sponsor. Can we call it a sponsor if we don't actually get anything of it?
We don't get anything.
I mean,
friend of ours,
Among the Leaves Teas, and tinyurl.com/Among the Leaves Teas, snarky t-shirt sayings, and some, I think it's probably the only t-shirt thing I've ever seen that tended to delve into esoteric math formulae.
Yes, right.
Anyhow. Also,
now these guys do sponsor us.
Yes, they send us coffee. Coffee is better than money. Well, sometimes. But King Harv's Imperial Coffees, and they're having a really decent sale this month. Yes. I haven't looked on it yet because I just got a several pound order in. So, speaking of which, I am currently drinking King Harv's Cameroon with cream and a little splash.
I told you the African coffees were great.
Yes. Well, there's a little splash of sugar-free blackberry syrup in there too.
Oh.
Because I do frou-frou coffee.
Nice.
Much to Jim's horror.
So let's get the big news out of the way. Jim went into surgery about 20 minutes ago for his broken back. They're doing some real cutting edge, and for the VA out of Wichita Falls, I'm kind of shocked.
Well, this isn't being done by the VA hospital.
Right.
So he's at a civilian hospital. The VA is paying for it.
But they're doing some real cutting edge surgery on his back.
The VA here is really good about doing that sort of thing for you.
Yeah, with Sanford's health issues, we've wound up with some really stellar doctors right here in Wichita Falls. So I am hopeful that Jim will come through this just fine and come out on the other side in a lot less pain. I would say a lot less grumpy, but I'm not sure that's a natural state.
No, that's baked into his bones. What they're actually doing is they're going to drill a hole in the padding, or where the padding was. And they're literally going to put screw jacks in there. And they're going to turn the screw jacks until they realign his spine.
And then add stuff, packing material in there. So it's kind of amazing what they can do.
I told him make sure to took a look at the jacks, make sure they didn't say Mopar before they went in, but he wouldn't listen.
I keep hoping that they can adjust them electrically after he's got it, and we can get the controls and we can walk him like Frankenstein. By the way, Jim would appreciate any prayers.
Yes. Please.
Yeah.
Like hell, Snap-on made his scissor jacks.
Yep. This is really a pretty serious thing. They're into some very delicate area. Anytime you're in the cerebrospinal cavity, it's they're really close to his spinal cord. Mm-hmm. So, for those who didn't know, Jim broke his back. We're not sure how. He's not sure how, but he has broken his back. So, Jim's
6 months ago.
Right. What that is something like a stress fracture. So it wouldn't have necessarily taken a fall. His back is bad enough. It's had enough thing during the year that it's basically just quenched.
That last stone during the Argonaut voyage, it screwed Jim's back up something else. And he's not here to snarl at me. So.
No. Well, so my dad had a broken neck last year, and there was no incident that precipitated it. In Dad's case, his cancer had gone into the bone, so it just crumbled. But that can happen even with just deterioration over time.
And remember, the real problem was when he was trying to take the chalks out from under the ark.
Yes. Yep, he was hammering the chalks out from the ark. And that or the cumulative pterodactyl landings, as Richard Brown says, pterodactyls can't land worth a damn. So, anywho, we can give him a load of shit. He can't say anything about it.
Yes. I can just imagine the comments in a few days when he watches this.
You should have been listening. You should have been listening to the thread he was in. People talking to him on the phone.
The group text chat has been spicy.
It was one of the things I had to get up at 5:00 this morning because something else. So at 1:30 local time, Central Time, bearingarms.com. Tom Knighton is going to have a article up about the gun rights cake analogy and how it's mine and it's been plagiarized by everybody. If you could go by bearingarms.com, or it's supposed to be a hot link to PJ Media, Hot Air, Red State, and Town Hall. If you go by there and click on it, let him know give at least give him a thumbs up. I'd appreciate it because he's doing me a nice that he didn't have to do.
Yeah, Tom's good people.
Yeah. So bearingarms.com, 1:30 Central Time will be a Law Dogs gun rights cake analogy and who it actually belongs to.
I actually wish Tom was part of this group. He's that good of people.
Yeah, he is. Tom's good, folks.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and he's been working at going freelance and supporting his family with writing. And as that is a thing that I have just recently started doing myself, I am watching him and not making notes because Tom's take on it is very different than mine. I mean, I'm not doing the whole journalist thing the way he is. My stuff is, I'm concentrating on the fiction.
Right.
I don't necessarily want to get involved in the culture wars.
Yeah. I understand. I'll use them. Speaking of, when I get done here, I've got an article up on my Substack today about the gun rights cake analogy. So important to me. And when I get done here, I'm going to do an edit. And if you want to buy the gun rights cake poster, I'll have a link on there over to Rack Press. And Jonna and the gang are busily setting up emergency because this was a short notice thing. They're putting together an emergency way to for anybody to buy a gun rights cake poster if you want it.
Yeah. James Sharp points out that Tom Knighton has a daily podcast called The Fourth Rail.
I did not know that.
Yep. Tom has been working on getting monetized on YouTube. He just recently accomplished that. It was kind of cool to chat with him about that. Yeah. So, good guy. Definitely check him out. And
he got annoyed because somebody at the GOA in an interview quoted the gun rights cake and neglected to mention me. A lot of people neglected to mention me on that one.
Do you feel neglected?
It's not so much neglected, although it does tend to piss me off. I don't mind it when people say, hey, here's a good analogy, gun rights cake. What pisses me off when they say, here's my thoughts on it, and then they copy and paste my gun rights cake. But the ones that really set my fucking teeth on edge are the ones that add extra stuff to it. I wrote a really clear analogy, beautiful metaphor. I'm proud of it. You don't have to add the extra shit.
Yeah, which kind of leads into my rant for the day.
I thought it would.
So, for those of you that are young authors out there, if someone calls themselves an editor and attempts to bully you into hiring them because your stuff would be better if they were involved, run. Just walk away, run away. That person is not someone that you are going to be able to trust to handle your work with respect. And I would find it laughable, except for the fact that it involved a backhanded slap to my editing team. And I've gotten used to, I've been doing this for 12 years now. At this point, I am a professional publisher, a professional editor, and a professional author. I hire a team. And to come in and
a plank holder actor press.
And to smack at, oh, this book is self-published and it would be better if I were involved. I mean, I don't care necessarily about that, but you get on my people and I'm going to be upset because if I write pulpy, if I write fast-paced adventure novels, it's because I was trying to do that. I do not feel the need to make my novels longer, deeper, and
literary,
softer by adding a bunch of extra padding in. I want to write pulp. I want to write fun stuff to read And the other thing too is if I'm setting up a series, which I was with this particular thing, there's going to be more,
Mhm.
and you don't slow down your introduction. I was just completely boggled at this, and there were other things in the review that made it clear that the reader had completely missed stuff, but that's okay. Your readers don't always have to um, agree with what you think they should as an author, even if you think you were pretty clear. Um, if multiple reviewers miss the same point, then it might be a you problem.
Right.
However, you don't go out in public and down talk someone's book and then expect them to hire you on
To be
as
grateful.
an editor. This is
I've talked shit about your book. Be grateful.
right. Well, this
Just
is
not this.
I was talking about it with friends, and they pointed out that this is what's called negging, which is evidently a term that comes from pickup artists, and it's a passive aggressive action. The word comes from nagging and begging.
Passive aggressive. There we go.
And I was like, well, that sounds like exactly what this thing was trying to do.
Okay, as a former pickup artist, no.
You were never a pickup artist like that. The pickup artist movement, recently, you were not. No,
Liz,
it's really slimy.
Liz, Jim just started his surgery. We
So-
won't know for a while.
Yeah,
So-
we won't know for a while. It will get posted that he'll be good
everybody know.
when we know for sure. And I have my phone sitting here, so if I get a text, I will make sure that I'll let y'all know.
Sure too.
Yep.
All right. Also, which kind of segues into a random pie.
Yes, we're going to do dueling rants.
Dueling
today.
rants.
Dun, 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 dun.
When I was growing up, I haven't grown up yet, but when I was a child, when I was younger and getting into books, the books I got into were Princess of Mars,
Mhm.
Louis L'Amour,
Yes.
Travis McGee. One thing about all these books is they were all, and that was all the books coming out. Those were the only books that I could find in the engineer's bungalow, and they were what it was here recently referred to as beach reads. About 60, 80,000 words. They are small books.
Yeah, they're
They
thin.
will fit inside the hip pocket of your jeans.
Yep. So, and that's what I grew up on. The big, what they refer to as goat chokers, that's a 1980s, 1990s is when I started seeing those bastards coming out.
Right. So, I mean, this is kind of my thing because this is the history of pulp fiction, and the onset of requiring a novel to be no less than 80,000 words actually has to do with pricing and reader resistance to books going up in price because it was costing more to print and more to paper in the 1980s. So at that point, the publishers were like, well, the readers don't want to pay extra for the pulp type novels, the 60,000 word novels that were so common for so many years. So therefore, to make them feel like they're getting more, we have to give them thicker books. And I will admit that as a teenager, I used to go in the library and look for the thickest books because I was only allowed to take out so many and I needed them to last a while.
So the books that I grew up reading were the Louis L'Amours, the early Heinleins. They were not thick books.
No, the Heinlein juveniles are not thick books.
The folks that of the Venn diagram that I am part of, the red part of the Venn diagram, the cops, the soldiers, the guys that have a book stuffed in their sponson pocket or the back pocket in case they have to go to the hospital and sit on an inmate, or the guys with a book shoved in their sponson pocket because they might have to go sit on a guard post somewhere. They don't buy the goat chokers. The gunsmiths I know, they'll want to catch a quick read at night. When they get done working on fucking 11 AR-15s, they want to go home. They want to pick up a little bitty book. They want to read it. They want to have a good time and go to sleep.
Yep.
They don't want a Robert Jordan. So when I see this crap, and I've seen it a lot, on some of my authors' other books that, hey, this needs to be longer. My ass. I've got cops and soldiers and sailors and jailers and gunsmiths and truck drivers and applied violence nerds that want a quick 60 to 80,000 word read.
40 to 60,000, maybe 40 to 70. So that's the thing, is that most of those slender little books, and somebody asked about Agatha Christie and Dorothy Sayers. Agatha Christie falls into the pulp length, although she was not pulp. But her books are probably 60 to 80,000 words. Dorothy Sayers is a whole different thing. She is very much literary mystery, and I adore her stuff, but you are definitely looking at mostly her books are longer. Not significantly so, though. And the thing that I keep telling, when we take a novel for Raconteur Press, I tell the author that if your manuscript is 120,000 words or longer, it is 2 books. It is not 1, it is 2 books. We will split it. If it's 130,000 words, it's going to be 2 novels. There's a couple of reasons for that. One is that we're formatting the Rack Press books at 5 inches by 8 inches. And there comes a point when you're doing what's called a perfect bound paperback, which is what the Rack Press books are currently, that if the spine is too thick, while you're reading it, it will break and fall apart. And I, for one, will not attach my name to a shoddy product. I have sat in a panel. I have sat in a panel next to a publisher who boasted about publishing really thick omnibuses that he knew were going to fall apart. And he's like, it's fine. It just makes them have to buy my book twice.
No, they won't.
And I'm like, this is not okay. This is not something that is an ethical thing to do. And I will not be part of something like that.
No, I don't want. I work really hard to get to keep an ethical reputation, a reputation for being fair, for being ethical, for doing the right thing, and you ought to be in here while I'm peeling the paint off the walls. And Amazon sends us a shipment of print books. And I go through and I find out how bad they've screwed them up, and I'm having to sell these people. And it's like I don't know that I can charge. I don't feel good charging full price for a book where the cover is halfway around to the front, or the back cover is halfway around the front. But somebody pointed out earlier, if you have an e-reader, you don't have to worry about it. Got an email the other day from a gentleman who apparently has a stack of our books in a SCIF. A SCIF, SCIF, Sierra Charlie India Foxtrot, is a secure compartmented information facility. You don't get anything electronic in there.
Yep.
It's also you get sit there and be bored a lot.
Yeah.
So he has a stack of Raconteur Press anthologies and buys one every time it comes out so they can rotate, because everybody's read all of them.
That's awesome, though. I love that kind of stuff.
One of my jailers let me know the ICU at Itchy Paw Hospital is starting to crack down on phones, because the phones are interfering with the radio telemetry of the ICU equipment.
Interesting.
So he's taking, guess what he's taking?
Paper books.
Spurble books.
But this is also why we formatted, it's one of the reasons that we formatted the novels at 5x8. The primary reason we formatted the novels at 5x8 is because our first novelist was John Van Stry, and I do the design for his Wolfhounds universe, and the universe that we're publishing is related to Wolfhounds, and I wanted the books to be the same size for his readers.
Okay.
But it also seemed like a good idea because they're not mass market paperback size, but they're down to almost that small. Mm-hmm. So they're a little bit more transportable than the big 6x9 trade paperbacks, which is what we do with the anthologies at. And then we've opted with the boys' adventure books to go in between those two. The boys' adventure books are 5.5 by 8.5.
So you'll be able to look on your bookshelf
and know exactly what that book is.
Yep.
And that, I put a lot of thought into the design for our company.
SCIF books, talk about a niche market. No kidding, right?
You would think that, but this is actually a conversation that we had with my son because he's going to be on a submarine. Yeah. and he won't have space for a lot of books.
I'm sitting here wondering whether in the back of some of the older skiffs they have stacks of destroyers and Mac Bolins
They do.
because they can't take them out.
Oh, you can take a book out as long as the guard pays through it, make sure you haven't written any TS information in there.
Yeah.
But most of them just stay because
Why?
you read them and you don't need to take them home.
Yeah.
Especially if it's a Mac Bolin or an Executioner or whatever, you get they're not worth reading twice. They weren't worth reading the first time, but they were in the barracks.
Well,
my son, we actually talked to a chief who is serving on submarines through a friend. We were able to reach out and contact and be like, hey, what can we give the kid which will enable him to read, but is also acceptable for him to have on the boat?
Mm-hmm.
And an older Kindle is the answer to that.
Cool.
An older Paperwhite Kindle. And it takes a little SD card, so we can load him the heck up with ebooks, and he'll be able to have, because he won't have much space on the boat.
I am willing to bet in the next 2 to 5 years, given the leaps and bounds Ukraine in information warfare, that there's going to, at least some boats, you won't be able to have anything personal on their electronic at all. And quite honestly, if I was a squadron commander in the Army, a company commander in the Army, after the location of the top secret sites being revealed by people's Fitbits, I do the same thing.
Yeah.
And given the fact the Ukrainians have got targeting your personal cell phone with a 60mm mortar down to a science.
Well, and that's why the older e-readers, because they don't have all the bells and whistles and the cellular data, and that's what he's allowed to have, because it's not going to be able to. You can hook it up to a Wi-Fi. There's not going to be a Wi-Fi on the boat.
Allegedly not, but apparently at least one cruiser had Starlink set up.
Submarines. I'm pretty damn sure you can't do Starlink under the ocean.
Well,
I could be wrong.
I would not be surprised or even the old Paperwhites and whatever.
Because I know the DOD, and they'll come out with a blanket policy saying nothing electronic.
Right.
Well,
because it's easier than trying to figure out does this
simple fact matters. Take a Kindle White in. Paperwhite. Any kind of e-reader. I don't care if it's a Noble, Nook, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
That is capable of carrying data out if you want to spend time to move it in.
My kid has been told that they will do something to his cell phone. Basically, they'll do a factory reset to it.
Here's your cell phone.
But I don't know for sure, but it's basically it's supposed to be a way to control data.
It's real easy. You walk up to the door of the submarine. There's a slot. It says cell phones. You drop it in. No, it goes into a lead line box. When it comes back to port and you're going off.
And my issue is that's great, but that's something similar to the amnesty boxes you saw in basic training, and in every duty station I was assigned to had the amnesty box, and the people that still got caught with crap they should have gotten the amnesty box because they thought they were too smart for their own good. Especially within the next year, within certain specialized units, you will not be allowed to have anything electronic, any personal electronics. It wouldn't surprise me if it's a DoD-wide policy in 5 years.
Yeah,
it wouldn't surprise me if they went back to analog watches.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, and so we were having this conversation. One of the little things that's in supporting Ragnarok involves keeping track of time. Because they're in a place where time doesn't exist.
Okay.
So as the book goes along, I have them increasingly able to actually keep track of time, which is part of the plot of how they're going to win, is enforcing order into chaos, which means that you aren't adrift with no time. So having a watch becomes a thing, and we were talking about this. The characters are the main character is Master Sergeant who served for almost 30 years, which makes him roughly 50-ish. Within a few years of that, I mean,
Okay.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's roughly 50.
He may be 48. He may be 52.
But then the secondary character, the female lieutenant, is young. She's in her late 20s. And we were talking, Sanford was talking to me about the watch that she would prefer. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. She would have had like an Apple Watch or some kind of smart watch or one of the little smart rings like Dorothy Grant uses now. That would have been how she would have been using to, yeah, hers doesn't have all the data security issues that something like this does. I don't care because but in a military situation you should care. So the little smart ring tracks things like steps and heart rate and stuff, but it doesn't do all the rest of the data stuff.
I used to love living in the future. Now I'm not so sure.
I mean, this is Internet of Things, and it is the toaster laughed and I shot it kind of thing.
What has been the biggest complaint amongst science fiction fans for the last 30 years about this future?
Tor sucks.
No, I said about the future, not about Tor. No. Where's my flying car? They promised me a flying car.
Yeah.
To be perfectly honest with you, I'm glad they didn't invent a flying car. I've seen how Americans drive. I've seen how people in Europe drive. I don't want anybody going above my head at 1,000 feet that drives like that.
Yeah, when I was a child in the 60s and 70s, and I was sure that at 2025 I would be living on the moon, have a flying car, or at least on a space station. No, I've got a friggin' TV and a refrigerator that I have to download antivirus protection to. It's not the future I was looking for.
No,
antivirus in my friggin'
And
refrigerator.
why does
Rick T points out he bought a self-winding watch and got grief from his shipmates with quartz watches a few months at sea, and their watches started dying. Rick, someone, and I don't know who because he hasn't told me, convinced my son to go ahead and buy a self-winding watch, so he has that. Someone told him it was something he was going to need. So, because that is a thing. That's
in the military,
it's going to work on him. I had self-winding watches back when I was in the military. They did not survive things like throwing yourself down on the dirt to take a prone firing position.
I found out real quick, especially when I went from being a RIMF to being combat arms. I was buying a Timex analog watch. It's pretty much like that one, about every 3 months. Because in combat arms, I use that watch more than I use anything else. And time hack and time check over the radio, you could hear the watch sims popping. It's like,
yeah. Well,
everybody,
and that's why I wrote the clocks and watches into the book, because there's going to come a point when you're absolutely right. That's an extremely important thing. I mean, I used to get, and I was not obviously combat. What I was a farm girl. And I used to have the little cheap black Timexes, and you could abuse those things, and they would do pretty well.
I always got the Timex with the hands on the cloth with the
cover,
with the Velcro.
Yeah.
And it would half the time it would hang off the buttonhole on my BDUs. Kids, ask your parents, ask your grandparents. It would hang off and so I could just look down. And then when it got too stinky, I would wear it in the shower and still get to the point that cloth band would woo.
Yeah.
Or the face all scratched up. Now it was $15 in the 80s.
Yeah.
Bin, new one.
Yep.
Well, especially, I once had a track rollover one. I was wearing it at the time, so it was a little nerve-wracking.
It happens.
You bang them against something, you come down. Now, the Timex watch, their famous thing was it takes a look at it and keeps on ticking.
Yep.
They used to show it being strapped on the front of a RHIB and driven through the surf.
Yep.
But it'll only take so much. It's, don't care how good a watch it is. If you smash it with a rock, it's going to break.
Yep.
Now, whether you're smashing it with a rock or whether you're smashing the rock with it, it doesn't make any difference.
That's hitting the dirt, banging in and out of the back of M3 or up through the hatch. Half the time, the cover or the watch crystal will get scratched to the point it's like, oh, that's what time it is. And
Have a good day, Raptor.
I think at the BX $9 to $15.
Yeah.
I'm
expensive.
I remember $10, but I'm a little older than you. And think about it, and there's also the fact that yes, they were water resistant, but if you're laying in the mud for 3 or 4 days.
See, I always bought watches that were good up to, I don't remember, like 30 meters, because I used to do skin diving, and I wore my watches constantly. They did not come off.
There was a time that there was always a watch, because Army will knock time paranoia into you. And I remember the fastest I bought a watch. I bought a new Timex. I had scratched the old one up. I bought a new Timex before I went somewhere where we were learning water insertions. And I spent 2 days jumping out of a helicopter into rivers and lakes. And then at night, I'd go. I love to swim. I was somewhere. I love to swim. So that was about a week. And I got up one morning and looked, and the water was frothing inside the watch. Like, well,
it still ran for another week or two.
It's still good. Bang, bang, shake out the water, you're good.
Kermit says, as a kid, I found an old Timex in the desert, not working. So I shot it with a Daisy BB gun. That jarred the thing into working. So I replaced the band and wore it for the next 5 years.
I miss.
There's an advert for Timer.
Yeah, no kidding, right? Now that we're on that subject, you know what? Something I noticed the other day that I miss was clocks everywhere.
Yeah.
I was in someone, and
I don't have a clock in my house.
I hate this damn thing. I'm about to get a wristwatch. But that was in my pocket, and I was looking because I'm an old fart. Kids, ask your grandparents. I was looking for a clock on the wall. Mm-hmm. It's like I went through
and it would be an analog clock.
Yeah, I went through 3 rooms in this building. It was a public building. Not a single friggin' clock on the wall anywhere.
And one of the things about it is, everybody says, well, you really need to use your phone because it'll give you the exact time. Most of the time, I don't want the exact time. I want to know it's about half past 12. I want to know it's about 10 minutes before I got to be down with the live stream. I want to know it's Jim should be getting out of surgery at 1:30 or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't care if it's 138.3.
I haven't worn a watch since I met. Well, Rita bought me a watch, a very nice watch with the American Indian wristband, and I wear that on special occasions because it's male jewelry. Yeah. And I don't wear a lot of jewelry, but that I'll wear.
A nice watch is very nice male jewelry.
It is very nice. It's a Citizen on it. Anyway, it's a very nice watch. I need to get another one because I'm getting rid of this damn thing. This thing is driving me nuts. It really is. I am sick nigh unto death of being connected to everything all the time.
Well, you shouldn't let it drive you nuts. It's a very short trip. You should walk. You need the exercise.
Further nuts. Further nuts.
Turning off all the notifications does help. I've actually figured out how to set on mine during the day, how to set what it's called personal time on. I have an iPhone, so it may not be the same thing with you. So I don't get any notifications during certain points of the day when I'm trying to focus on work.
And Dawn, I love the dumb videos, but I get them in my email. I got a 5 o'clock this morning because Tom got in touch with me about, hey, I'm going to need the article faster than I thought. And my writing is not as good as it used to be, and it takes a lot more to get something articulate out. And Jim is going to the hospital for surgery. So this thing was going off every 30 seconds. From about 9 o'clock till about 11 o'clock, it was out in the car. And that was such a peaceful couple hours.
Well, and that's the other thing too, which is if turning off the notifications doesn't work for you in particular, and I'm kind of talking to the chat, not just you, which is put the phone somewhere else. Sanford sleeps. Sanford sleeps a lot because he has to these days, and he will leave his phone on his desk in the other room when he goes to lay down, so it's not going to make noises and bother him while he's resting. And I mean, for me, I have trouble detaching myself from it because it is how anybody that needs to get a hold of me is going to get a hold of me. And I feel like every time I do like leave it and go somewhere else for a few hours, I come back to emergency upset messages.
Yes.
And I need to get past that.
I can remember a time.
More.
I can remember a time in my life where someone could be a good friend and live a block away. Jim, anybody from here in Tiny Town. And I would not actually hear from them for a week or two.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if they're introverts. I remember back in the days for these damn things, going a year going, oh, I should check on Todd. I haven't heard from him in a year. Oh, I'm good. How are you?
I mean, I have.
Or you go in and you find out that you run into somebody and say, I've called you like 12 times. You're never home.
Yeah, something else is the culture of being instantly accessible, and people get angry if you're not instantly accessible these days. And
someone in the chat just said something about that.
I got knocked into me when I finally got talked into becoming a lieutenant in the sheriff's office, and I was a lieutenant on command staff, which meant my responsibilities ballooned, and all of a sudden I could not ignore my cell phone. I had work texts, work emails, and when things went left, all pear-shaped at the sheriff's office, I had to be, and I got in the habit of carrying a friggin' smartphone all the time.
Yeah. And
I need to get out of that habit because this thing is not good for people's mental health.
Well, I mean, here's the thing, which is way before smartphones were a thing. Dad was emergency medicine. And there were points where he was both firefighter and EMS. So he constantly had the radio, the tones. We were always listening for the tones. And there were times in Alaska where he didn't have it with him. I can remember bicycling for a mile to get Dad. And by the way, a mile was the distance between our homestead and my grandpa's homestead. It wasn't a big deal. It was just, but I had to scoot for a mile to let Dad know the tones had gone and he needed to get his response, because it was not a big team of first responders in that area, and every one of them counted. But the thing is, the long-term thing of that is that Dad had serious heart trouble later in life because of those constant adrenaline bursts for the tones have gone and I am booking it to wherever the call is. And in Alaska, sometimes that was a couple 100 miles. Well, and so that takes a toll on the body keeps the score.
Well, the other thing is, a lot of people call a phone a leash because
they're not wrong.
I've got a friend, and I'm going to step over here to the camera so they can see what he does. If the phone rings, he goes, "Fish is hooked again."
Yeah.
Because his wife uses it like a fish hook and a leash.
Greg and Dawn understand the whole, hey, you're a supervisor, you're screwed.
Yeah.
I need, and being CEO of a press, I've got Slack on this thing, I've got Facebook Messenger, I've got Signal. I'm getting contact from Rack Press folks, our authors, people who want to be our authors all the time. And I can't afford.
Can one of our moderators please take care of the troll? Thanks, guys.
Do we have moderators?
Yeah, we have mods in the chat. I'm pretty sure.
What's the troll saying?
It's nonsense. Remove. There we go. Yeah, we have to be available for work purposes, but we also need to get better about things like sleep hygiene and personal time, and not having notifications during certain hours. Yes, he's laughing at me. This is a conversation we've had before.
Goodness.
Honestly, I think
we might be sitting at the table.
I think that you ought to go when you go home of an evening after, say, let's say 7 p.m. You walk back out to the car, you unlock it, you open the glove box, you put your phone in, you close the glove box, you lock the car, go back in, go to bed.
When this thing goes paws up, ooh, and you get to go bye-bye. When this thing goes paws up, I'm getting a flip phone. I'm getting a flip phone. This thing is not good for my health. I don't think these things are good for anybody's health. Being connected to the entire world, we have brains that evolved to hunt squirrels and eat berries in a small pack. Our brains didn't evolve to be in constant touch with everybody all the time.
I like having my phone with me at all times. That's because my phone never rings. Whether people call me or not, it doesn't ring. And I don't get that many messages. My phone is a pocket-sized book that I can have, plenty of read material for the next 30, 40 years on it at any one time.
So if you are having trouble with the phone, particularly during sleep hours, what I have mine set up to do, and it's going to depend on whether yours is an iPhone or an Android, so you'll have to Google how to, but you can do automatic sleep times and have all notifications paused, or in my case, the only ones that can get through to me during my sleep period are my children. I have exceptions set up. So if because they're all at a point where they're not just random. Well, okay. One of them sometimes randomly calls me, but not generally where he's getting in my sleep schedule. But my kids, if they contact me, that's something I need to be able to instantly get. But everybody else, I don't get any of that.
Office, I have Samsung's or Androids, and there's a do not disturb function.
Yep.
And it was set from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
There's a select list of numbers, and it was my family and the SO, and numbers of the SO.
Yep.
And then everybody else, if the number called a second time within 3 minutes, it would go through.
Yes. Yeah, it's easy to settle that up, and it will help with getting better rest. And then I started doing something very similar to that during the day. Now that I'm trying to actually write for a living, I'm setting up time where I can't be interrupted because I'm going to be in focus mode. And I am not anybody's, well, okay. I can't say I'm not anybody's supervisor because I am, but it's not that urgent. They can wait a couple of hours.
My thing, I suspect it's the same for Cedar. When I'm in writing mode, which doesn't happen much anymore, but when I'm in writing mode, anything disturbs that, it takes about half an hour to get back in.
Mm-hmm.
That's half an hour I'm not writing.
Yeah. So one of the things that I have learned over the last 15 years of writing has been that I have to work at it, but the more I work at it, the more consistent I am about sitting down and flipping on the switch for writing, the faster I can get there. But it does take, it's like when you go and you lift weights.
You need to add a step there.
And exercise.
You need to add a step to that process.
Which is?
Turning around and telling your husband, leave me alone, I'm writing.
Well, actually, I solved that I have the art studio, which is a whole separate room in the house, and I go in there and I close the door, and he's good about respecting and not coming in while the door is closed and talking to me. The cats come in, but that's a whole different, speaking of cat herders, the cats are a whole different. Yes,
The cats
Toast
are
often wants my attention.
very aloof until you don't want them.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh! So I've been trying to get back into, because same thing, writing and art. I've been trying to get back into the mode of being able to sit down at my art desk and paint. So I've been doing watercolor exercises, and Toast is fascinated with this. And I managed to keep the paint water away from her the other day, but like day before yesterday, she actually did drink from the paint water.
Once.
So excellent news.
Jim's surgery is done. He'll be removed recovery in a few minutes. Doc said everything went well.
Excellent news. So Jim
Good.
is out of surgery, moving to recovery, and we will see how he's feeling. And I don't know how soon he's going to be able to come home, but this is wonderful.
We should go down there and get one of those sleep masks put on him. Jim, don't be. Take this very calmly.
I want to go down there, turn off the lights in his room, set up a red projector with little flickering effects,
Oh no!
and show up with horns. Hello, Jim. Remember me?
Yes, Toast drank the paint water. Toast is now an artist. I mean, if I didn't think she would lick her paws, I'd put paint on her toes and have her walk across paper. It would be cute. But bathing Toast does not object strenuously to have a bath. She just gets really pathetic. Oh yeah.
Nope.
But no, but this is part of the reason I do watercolor too, is because Toast can safely drink the paint water and it's not going to hurt her. I have drunk my own paint water, not on purpose. Don't put paint water in a coffee mug.
However, you can hear it from across the room when she does.
I had a rule. My team was subbed. We on a debt to sit on something inconsequential, and one of the techs was a Copenhagen fan, and this was okay as long as he was spitting into his styrofoam coffee cup. But I had my Dr. Peppers because I do caffeine, and he filched one of my Dr. Peppers one day and then started
Spitting into
it.
Oh, that is the nastiest.
And the van was hot, and I grabbed my Dr. Pepper and took a big old swig, and then a tech came flying out of the back of a modified 5-ton.
Oh no!
And after that, there were rules about when and where you could use your Copenhagen.
Ugh. Yeah, I've also dipped paintbrush into coffee, usually, but yes.
I was going for distance. He actually, and I shit thee not, went about 12 feet off the back deck before he hit turf. And then I started yarking.
Yes. Yeah, because your body wants that out right now with a quickness.
It rebounded like a catapult.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I have an uncle who wound up with cancer in his jaw and serious disfiguration because he'd had a chew habit for a really long time.
Yep.
So, because that'll eat your bones.
That was when I was participating in judo matches on a regular basis, and I was
motivated.
Oh, good. I'm glad you fixed that typo, Padre, because the first one says, I've dunked my paintbrush in my team before. T. We'll go with T.
Okay.
Isn't that it's an extra $75 in Vegas?
Actually, it's $250 because they.
Oh, you would know.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, but the other thing too is that I used to experiment with making my own inks, and I've made like walnut hull ink and pokeberry ink, both of which are very toxic.
Oh,
but now that I have
yay.
the little cat that wants to participate in art, I can't use those.
I used I used to use xylitol. There's a sweetener called Ideal. It's purple,
Hmm.
and it's xylitol,
Yeah.
and it's great if you're diabetic and you don't have dogs. It's great. It will lower your blood sugar uh, medicinally as well as by not having any sugar. But dogs cannot be anywhere near xylitol because it will, when it lowers your blood pressure and you're 200 pounds, it will lower a 15-pound dog's blood sugar to fatal levels,
Yeah.
insulin shock. It's a nasty way to die.
Yeah.
And Mochi still has a nasty habit of going ears deep in my coffee mug if I lay it around. So I had to stop using xylitol.
Oh, yes. Pokeberries can be used to make ink. It's actually a fairly light, fast ink, and it's a lovely bright purple, as you might imagine. Um, poke is edible only if,
Ish.
well, and this is the thing with
Edible-ish.
a lot of foraging and wild plants, is the fact that you have to collect it at the right time and know what you're doing. So poke, basically, if you collect it like asparagus, where it's just sprouting up in the spring, the leaves have not started to unfurl, and there is absolutely no red visible on the plant, you can cut it, boil it, change the water, boil it once more, and then you can eat it. Um, and
Huh.
this was a very common food in the Appalachians and the Ozarks.
How do they
because
figure out that you have to boil it twice?
That's
By
actually-
boiling it once and finding out that didn't work.
No, it's actually very common with a lot of green vegetables where they used to recommend multiple changes of water because you're reducing the bitterness.
So you eat it and it kills you.
Okay.
So the survivor goes, that killed Bob. Let's boil it and see if it works. Nope, that killed Fred.
My
Let's
thing
boil
is-
it twice.
My thing has always been of rhubarb. Take rhubarb, for instance. The roots of rhubarb will kill you. The leaves of rhubarb will kill you, or at least make you very sorry. But the stem is just fine.
Well, it's okay. Potatoes.
Yeah.
Potatoes are not good food. The original potato plant that grew in the Andes,
It's a nightshade. It's a solanum.
it's not good for you.
It is chock full of a toxin called solanine.
So you've got some American Southern Indians go, hey, Bob's dead. All right, let's grow it a couple of iterations. Nope, kill Frank. All right, let's grow it a couple more years. So much for Ralph. Let's grow it in about another 10 years. Oh, this is now edible.
Well,
The hell?
but remember one thing. Potatoes are not only edible, but they're fairly tasty.
Not originally.
Potatoes are not only edible, they're fairly tasty.
After multiple GMOing.
The poke
Yeah.
is horrible even after it's been boiled twice.
I don't know. I've never had it.
You probably won't. And here's the thing is poke for me has an objectionable texture. It's a little like okra. Especially after it's twice cooked, it's kind of soggy and slimy.
And it don't
it
taste good
tastes-
neither.
It tastes green. And so I grew up with a grandmother that taught me how to forage the wild things. Some of them are good eating. Most of them are not. There is a reason that they did not make it into people's gardens on a common basis.
You will see on a regular basis someone saying that cattails are an edible wild food.
I've actually eaten cattails as a Boy Scout.
Yes,
I won't do it again.
I
but
have
there's-
eaten cattails as well.
They are technically edible.
Yeah.
And not as free-range corn dogs like the internet meme says.
Somebody, you sir are an asshole. A wonderful asshole, but still an asshole. Free range corn
I
dogs.
thought that was the funniest thing.
You sir are an asshole. Brilliant, still an asshole.
Well, okay, so cattail seeds, if you fluff them off, they get all poofed out. They make excellent insulation.
Yeah.
And they actually used to use them to stuff like jackets and comforters with.
As a Boy Scout, we had to have we had to make biscuits or bread, half flour, half fluffed corntail, or
The corntail, the pollen.
whatever the orange
Cattail
the
pollen.
cattail.
The
Yep,
pollen.
and then it goes in, and then
Yeah.
hey, look, bread. Ish.
Okay, so
Bread
Did
ish.
Didn't you have to make acorn flour too?
Yeah.
The root
Yeah.
of cattail is very high in starch, and you can process out the starch and use it where you would potato flour or rice flour. The pollen of cattail is usable as a flour substitute. Neither of them will do anything like bread flour because they lack gluten. You can, in theory, roast and eat cattail root. It tastes like mud. Um, the shoots, the young shoots of cattail, can be peeled and eaten like artichoke hearts. And if you clean them well enough, they don't taste like mud. They don't taste like much of anything else. But cattail is one of those where if you're starving and you're in a place where it grows abundantly, it could be useful, which is about what most wild foods are. Is
We had to make cattail flour, we had to make acorn flour, and we had to make the inside of pine bark flour. And of the three, I'd rather suck on the pine pitch. The inside pine bark flour was about the most edible, and it still tasted like sucking on.
So acorns, it depends on. Okay, acorns are another one where you either get the right kind of acorn, in which case you're golden. Any kind of a white oak has a much reduced tannin content. But if you're talking about a red oak, that's going to have tannin that will embalm you from the inside out.
That's one of those things, and that's where I first came up with the what the hell, because we got a bunch of acorns, and then we had to boil them like 3 times, and we had to keep pouring off the water till it was.
Yep.
Who the hell found this out? All right, acorn.
The Native Americans.
Killed Bob. All right, let's boil it in water.
Yep.
Try it, Frank. Killed Frank. All right, let's boil it twice. Yep, there goes Ralph. Let's boil it again.
So what they were doing is, it wasn't that it killed people, it's that it tasted nasty. As long as it tasted nasty, or tasted like anything in some cases, they kept changing the water out. The other thing is, you boil it, and then you roast it, and then you grind it, and it might actually have some flavor left at that point. Maybe.
The inside of the pine bark was still better.
Yeah.
Did you ever have to eat the inside of willow bark to prove that you knew how to do medicines in the field?
Yes, we had chew willow bark.
That's nasty.
Oh,
That is extremely bitter.
Yeah.
But it really is medicinal.
It's
salicylic acid. It's what you get in aspirin. The dosage is going to be wonky, but that's a whole nother rant we don't have time for.
Talk about rebounding a catapult when you make willow bark tea, because you've got a headache and the individual you're dating is real big on the whole naturopath bullshit. Says, try this.
Oh.
Did she make you willow bark tea?
I drank willow bark tea, and because she was cute, I drank all of it. And
Oh,
when I yarked, I went outside so I wouldn't hurt her feelings. And then I got in a leave.
Yes. Yeah, soup making bird's nest is a whole other thing.
That nest is made all out of bird spit, actually.
Okay,
Yes.
here is a structure made of bird spit and covered in the lice that comes off of birds' feathers. Let's cook it. How fucking desperate! It's the jungle. There's bound to be protein that doesn't involve lice and bird spit.
Well,
The thing with the jungle is, everybody always thinks of the jungle as being this immensely fertile place, and that's actually not true. The soil in the jungle is nutrient deficient because there's water washing through it constantly, and everything water soluble just washes right out. So yes, you can survive in the jungle, but it's more difficult than you might think.
Oh, I grew up in a jungle.
Well,
I know how. But
there's a
birds
reason. It's the same reason why people eat gourds. I mean, squash of any sort is
I like
survival
cucumbers.
food.
I like cucumbers.
He likes
I
cucumbers.
love cucumbers. It's a squash.
I like squash. I like pumpkins. I mean,
Ew.
Yeah.
I told you my wife was a little mentally defective. She eats pumpkin, and that's a proof of it all by itself. That she married me.
It's like, oh look, it's a fungus. Oh dear, that one killed Bob. Frank
That
is
one made George see God for a week.
George has a long conversation. I think we'll try something else.
Yep.
Oh, and that one looks just like the one that killed Bob.
Sago root grubs. I mean, hey, grubs have lots of protein and
Yes.
fat. Actually,
Jungle
that is
Survival School. I eat a lot of grubs. We'll never
so.
do
This
that
is the thing that most people miss about survival. which is it's not being able to find and eat green stuff because of scurvy. If you can find and eat fresh meat, you'll stave off scurvy. Fat. Fat is the thing that you're going to have struggled the hardest with if you're writing or, God forbid, living in a situation where you're trying to survive off the wild. You need fat, and you're not going to be able to get it.
And by the way, for those of you who think they're going to get a nice fat rattlesnake, there is no fat on a rattlesnake.
Not much, no. And that's 1 hour. So Jim's out of surgery. Doctor said it went well. So we may see him Tuesday. We may not, depending on recovery. We'll figure it out. We're gone, folks. See you later. Be safe. Don't pet the sweaty stuff. Don't sweat the face stuff.